and then you just ghost me. And the next week, I'm like hurting for cash. I'm like, I could have really used that 150. Like, why did I have to?
Also, the trade-off of like going on a date and as the man being like, oh, this sucks, I have to pay, or as the woman being like, oh, this sucks.
Oh God, oh God, this is gonna be f***ing awful. Vice has been doing this like Jubilee ass style content for a minute now. We watched the feminist versus anti-feminist one that was awful. This one has friend of the show Christian Walker involved. Let's take a look.
I might get murdered is like a pretty big
imbalance.
How you guys doing? My name's Krishna. Thank you all for being here and talking through masculinity, what it means to be a man, etc. Obviously, we couldn't fit every man in the country into this room. We tried to get a diverse perspective, but of course, that caveat, we're not everyone. I wanted to start by telling you why this is something that I'm interested in. I have an 8-year-old son, and I'm seeing him absorb what manliness might mean.
Uh-oh, he's on TikTok. You know his ass is watching Andrew Tate, bro. He's like 8 years old. Instead of talking about how girls have cooties, he's like, Dad, women are bitches, Dad.
Thinking to myself, like, what does it mean to be a man? To start, maybe we could just introduce each other.
Dad, why don't you have a Bugatti, Dad?
To each other. And if you were to describe what it means to be a man or to be masculine.
My name is Tahoe. I'm a black man from the hood. When I was young, being a man, you had to be tough. You had to be hard. And now, to me, being a man is a lot different. Now, to me, being a man is knowing when to be soft. Knowing that you don't always have to run the charge. You can actually...
God damn, that's... Oh, shit. Okay, spitting.
Listen, you know what I mean? So things have changed a lot over the course of the years for me.
I'm Griffin, and I don't identify as a man. I'm non-binary. I still have elements of, my identity that are masculine, elements that are feminine, elements that don't fall within that range. And I personally just don't feel tied to like the norms or the confines of gender at all.
Well, welcome.
My name is Dylan, and I think that the notion of masculinity is just something that can be possessed by man or woman. Man, woman, non-gender conforming person. What it means to be masculine is just like, changing and like very fluid. But I think that, masculinity is something that just, like you embody based off of just like how you show up in this world as a man and just like, how you go about being your day to day.
How you show up. Interesting.
Yes.
What's up, guys? My name is Paul. I'm a fitness entrepreneur.
Uh-oh. Okay. No shot.
I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 4 years old with my family.
Oh, God. Here it is. Okay, watch this motherfucker cook, okay? He said fitness entrepreneur, okay? He said, oh, no, he's immigrant family, came here when he was young. I'm seeing all the markers.
It's kind of funny how we're talking about it. My take on masculinity is not about talking as much as doing. I think at its core, a man has to be efficient, competent, and be willing to do what it takes for themselves and their loved ones.
I was not always a good man. I was not always what you would call a healthy masculine man. And so as my life has changed, I've identified 5 points that I think make a truly masculine man masculine.
Okay.
I think point number 1 is a man who walks with God.
I think people who wear bucket, like 10-gallon hats like this when they're not at the rodeo or at a quinceañera are clowns, okay? And I think most people from Texas would also agree with me on this matter.
Point number 2 is a man who stands on principle. Point number 3, which is a masculine man, is self-sacrificing. So someone who is willing to sacrifice for point 4, the people that he leads. A true man is a leader. And number 5...
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. Stop ragging on him. He's probably bald. You're right. He's follically challenged. We don't use the B word here. He is follically disabled. Okay.
A masculine man is never a coward.
That's a lot there.
Yeah.
Let's get into that as we go on.
I think what it means to be a man is responsibility. As a man, it can come with a lot of power. And with great power comes great responsibility, in short words.
Okay. Not bad.
That's from
Honestly, listen, I mean, the most sane man from Florida, okay, avoided that. So far, with the exception of like the yee ass, like, God, being a man is about being a leader, leading your flock. A shepherd does not concern themselves with the opinions of sheep, that kind of shit. Aside from like the bullshit, like conservative sheepdog narrative, which is a fantasy, by the way, of course. It's been pretty good so far.
Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, that's what's
Uncle Ben.
James.
Well, my name is James Killen, former United States Marine, turned Air Force officer. Got a couple combat tours, but I'm also a father of 3 girls who mellowed me out the idea of masculinity is something that I find interesting because it is changing, and I can actually see those changes in myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this panel.
Thanks for your service. Andre.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, men. I think my idea of a real man is, someone
who sits around and watches Andrew Tate all day. Like, that's what manly men do. Being a real man is about, watching another guy tell you what a real man is. That's what I do all day. And that's why I'm the realest man here.
Gets the job done, and provides and all that. I don't even know what that means anymore, but I don't know. It's changing every day.
How do you think it's changing?
No, it just seems like everything is changing every day. It's like a new world order, so I don't, I have a hard time keeping up with stuff, so.
What do you mean, brother? What the Some of these motherfuckers do need to clean their rooms, okay? I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, fix your shit first, okay? Before you start thinking about the new world order, okay? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I feel like tomorrow it's going to be something else and people are going to comment and be like, you're wrong, it's this now.
It is hard to talk about some of this stuff because you feel like you might say the wrong thing.
I'm not really masculine myself, so I feel like I'm like the wrong person to ask.
Maybe you're the right person to ask. Christian.
What it means to be a man is to be a adult human male.
That's sort of a very formal definition, but I think that might be a good.
Oh no, Christian, stop. Oh no, friend of the show, Christian Walker, dude. He's about to come in hot with some transphobia. He had to find like an avenue to shove some transphobic takes in.
Good place to kick off because there's a lot of talk.
Like, that's not. You think it's masculine? Honestly, you think it's masculine or manly to just like constantly chirp endlessly about trans people?
Of writing, of research these days that says there's a crisis in masculinity. Is there a crisis in masculinity? And if so, like, what is that crisis?
The thing that I see is a lot of deconstructing generational trauma. The be a man, boys don't cry, this, that, and the other thing. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why we see it as a crisis, because we're actually trying to redefine what it means to be a man, and none of us have any idea.
I'll tell you what, okay? A lot of people always ask me this. I'll tell you what people think masculinity is first, okay? Masculinity or femininity are a set of attributes, right? We already understand that. It's like associated with men, boys, whatever, right? But because of that vagueness of the definition, most people in a patriarchal society attribute masculinity with positive values, specifically confidence. And I think that's false. I think confidence is a separate thing. You can be confident in your femininity, you can be confident in your masculinity, and you can be confident in general. But a lot of people literally just think being masculine, being an alpha male, is just being a strong, confident individual, okay? All of this other conversation about like traditional masculinity versus masculinity now, like all of this shit is dumb, because everybody instinctively understands what you mean when you say, oh, that guy's an alpha male right there. Whether or not the terminology of an alpha male is true or not, which it isn't, we already know that. None of that matters. When someone contextually points to a person and says alpha male, it's the same as big dick energy, it's the same as fucking confidence. You're basically substituting it. That's it.
Because we're just out here trying to be whoever we are.
That's right. I think that historically being a man was rooted in patriarchy and misogyny. And now we realize how harmful that has been over the years. And so we don't really know how to define where we're supposed to be. And I think the reason that they're saying there's a crisis is because the box has gotten so small for just being, say, straight, just being a hetero, right? Because if you do anything, women judge you.
What do you mean anything?
If I dance a certain way, or if I wear my hair a certain way, if I dress a certain way, they go, real men don't do that. Real men don't do that. And
which is ironic. He's right. He's saying he can't even be like secure in whatever the fuck he wants to do without people constantly redefining everything to be like outside of this narrowly defined box of masculinity, when he can be a masculine figure, which I think he is. And like the moment that he doesn't fit that like narrow boundaries, which is oftentimes like hyper individualized as well, and like has a wider net depending on who you're talking to, like people make fun of him.
And so you get scared to move a certain way because you don't want to get judged or outed out of the accepted part of your community. And I think that kind of has us in an uproar and we don't know where to be. Like, where's the safe place to be for men now? You know what I mean? And it's kind of disturbing.
You know, I was what you would call a toxic masculine male growing up. And I had good men that sewed into me, you know, they gave me good advice, but I never found manhood and or never understood my place as a man until one day I humbled myself and I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm telling you right now, walking with God changed my life forever.
Yes!
Can you define toxic masculinity? Like,
I would say toxic.
Being humbled by sexy ass Jesus was what my come to God moment. Okay. God, I love born agains, dude. Ugh, American politics is fun. It's funny in and of itself. Okay. Only made funnier by the existence of evangelical born again, submitting yourself to God.
Masculinity is like what he was just saying, where you're using that leadership role or that aggressive nature in a harmful way to harm other people, to get your way. So the biblical structure for manhood is very humble. It's self-sacrifice. It's not self-motivated, but it is motivated by principle and standing on what's right. So there is a clear-cut vision for manhood in the Bible that I live by, and I think our culture used to live by, and I think our culture has lost its way.
I think everybody sort of has a different definition of toxic masculinity. I don't find masculinity toxic in and of itself.
Men waking up every morning to the new terms of conditions of being a man. Dating a man who makes monthly photo dumps is wild. This is so good.
But I do believe in bad men and bad men exist. But does that mean every man is toxically masculine? No.
We were talking about a crisis on masculinity. I think that there's a lack of understanding there. So it's like masculinity, being masculine isn't toxic. It's just like there are portions of it that you can dive into that make it toxic.
Because I think a lot of what we think of masculinity is tied into patriarchy, right? Which is to say, like, for the longest period of human history, like, men dominated women and got the lion's share of stuff.
I think a lot of times some people make masculinity into a caricature, like it has to be this alpha bro tough guy.
Exactly.
And I find the low-key guy who, you know, is a really great father and a great husband and maybe not like drinking raw eggs every day to be a lot more masculine than the alpha.
Okay, where are the podcasts listening? I cannot believe I'm saying this. Where are the real men? Okay, this panel very suspiciously is devoid of the Andrew Tate fans, of the Joe Rogan heads. Even fucking Christian Walker is coming across normal in this interview. Where are the homies at? Where's Aiden Ross? We need some real representation out here. Being a man is about eating raw meat and listening to the Joe Rogan Experience, okay? That's what being a man's about. The Asian dude is a Tate fan for sure. Oh, the one in the back? He literally said he's like not masculine. So yeah, you're probably right.
For bro who's going and like banging 20 women per weekend and not a responsible man. I find it more masculine to be a good guy.
I think that
this panel of men is more progressive than the women's panel. No, literally. Even the conservative ones have like decent takes on masculinity. What the fuck is going on right now? Vice, come on, Vice. They rigged it. They brought like, even Christian Walker has like a relatively decent understanding of like what it means to be like a decent man, okay? He himself might not fit the bill, okay? Or maybe he does, but he certainly doesn't behave that way with his output. His output is like not very decent, okay? Specifically transphobia, specifically the anti-black racism in many respects, okay? That's like, you know, part of being a conservative mouthpiece. But like, even he is like decent here. What is happening? Let him cook. I bet this gets weird as fuck. Yeah, why is this like, yeah, notice how the Marine veteran is the one who's a generational trauma? Dude, what is going on? Yeah, you have like a hoorah guy who's like, I've done 3 combat tours. Also, honestly, being masculine is about abolishing gender norms, as a matter of fact. As a father of 3 daughters myself, I believe that men are trash. What is going on?
Background of this is that we are saying that gender is this like real thing that has real ideas and implications. And Griffin, I'm wondering, as someone who identifies as non-binary, how does this conversation strike you?
Well, I think that it kind of becomes like irrelevant whether or not we attribute like having like a good ethical compass to being like masculine. Attributing that to like the gender constructs which we have made up, which are like somewhat pointless, like kind of just feed into needless roles that uphold the patriarchy without even knowing it. A lot of those things are just things that people should be doing because they're like morally right. Like if you're in a family, you should probably support your family. And I really don't think that it has to do with like your manhood.
They're 100% correct, by the way. I'm going to be shocked if, look, let's be real, okay? as woke as everyone here is, like, I think you still probably understand that the average dude, okay, the average man is not going to focus on the message here and actually maybe focus on the messenger themselves a little bit more in this circumstance, and probably even like not listen to it. But maybe I'm wrong. Let's hear it. Let's see. These guys are pretty woke so far, okay?
These characteristics that we're talking about are baked into an old system of domestic life.
I think that's actually where we
Cowboy hat clocking them like, dang, they them look kind of like Daisy Duke. Stop.
We get toxic masculinity. Like, none of us can really describe what it is, but we can see it when it happens.
So we learn it, right?
Yeah.
This is something we learn from the world. It's something we learn from like TV and shit. And it's maybe something we learn from our dads too. Tell me about your dad.
I'm a first generation kid. My dad is from Guyana. Grew up in very humble beginnings, poor family. First time I remember my dad telling me he loved me was when I was 17. And he was like saying like he was proud of me because I was about to graduate high school and things like that, you know. I'm appreciative of all of the other things, you know, being present as a provider. But in terms of like, you know, the conversation piece and like, oh, I want to talk to my dad about, you know, sex or something, or I want to talk to my dad about, oh, this person broke up with me and I'm feeling pretty sad about it. I didn't have those conversations.
So like emotional language as part of like how you talk to your dad.
Yeah.
Okay, this is crazy. This is 10 minutes in and like I have no notes. I'm losing it. What is going on? This panel is doing some fucking agitprop, okay? The female panel was awful, dude. 10 minutes into the fucking feminism, anti-feminism panel, it was already like bedlam. I was losing my shit, okay? This is crazy. This is like wholesome. They're all gonna go get a beer after this, you know what I mean? With the boys.
Manhood came solely from my relationship with God. It didn't come from my father. It didn't come from the good influences around me.
Is God a man?
Yeah, and God is a man.
He is.
God is a father, and he's a good father. He's a perfect father. And so I think there is a clear definition of manhood where I guess that's
even
where
the fitness entrepreneur's like, all right, dog, you're being weird right now. Chill.
in the room. I believe manhood is clearly defined by God. It is the perfect example of what a man should be.
Christian, I see you nodding your head.
I grew up in a divorced home. When you do grow up in a broken home and you don't have a father in the home, you recognize how important sort of both males and females are in raising a child and being in the home.
There's a balance between, you know, masculine energy and feminine energy.
Absolutely.
And I feel like there's both within everybody. And so there's a balance that with masculine energy in itself that I think a lot of people have trouble trying to like reconcile within themselves. Like, yes, being a man, you work hard, you take care of your people, but you got to be able to have that emotional side too, which is where the feminine energy comes in.
Y'all just like triggered something in my head when y'all was speaking about having both in the home. To me, I didn't really have it there. And it made me feel a way, but I think that I always wanted one. And so I wound up at a certain age going outside and trying to find what masculinity was outside. And so I went on the corner and there were 20 of us on the corner and none of us had dads. We were all messed up. And so we all taught each other the wrong way to love, to be loved. And then I think in society, there's way more people like that.
And a lot of kids who don't have fathers in the home, look for that father in the world or in a different way.
Yeah. This is a very real issue that many of you already have seen the consequences of, and the consequences are Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, and the like. Literally, people who are routinely fatherless behavior in men manifests itself. Like, I know the age-old meme is like, oh, you're fatherless, you became a stripper, you became a sex worker or whatever. Fatherlessness in men leads them down the podcast pipeline, and they think Joe Rogan is that male role model. They think Jordan Peterson is that male role model. They think Andrew Tate, which is the worst iteration of the three, their positive male role model, is terrible. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, well, first I think that like attributing like proper family values to like a heterosexual couple with children is like just not effective. Like, I think that it's obviously like a hetero.
Also, for the record, like, yes, almost all children born into a household with two parents are still going to have an incredibly healthy development in comparison to a child born into a single parent. Most of that is about disposable income and not necessarily about like not having a man or not living in a, you know, male-female partnership in the home. Like, that's not it at all.
Normative take to be like man and woman and then a child, and that's how you create like a good family. And whether it's like a single mother, single father, or like a queer couples. Like, I don't think that it's necessary to like attribute men and women to like certain roles in the household. I think that it's only due to nurture.
You're that guy for Pace the Online Leftist Weirdos? Yeah, well, I know that, and I recognize that responsibility.
Those gender norms that we follow.
Male and female matters. God gives you one of those identities, you take on that role. And now you're responsible for not or for fulfilling that role. There's a masculine crisis because men are not taking responsibilities for the God-given roles that they have in society. And so when you take away the need to say, God made you this or God made you this.
I love when like God-loving motherfuckers go crazy for God. Because, like, nobody wants to hear it. God lovers of this magnitude can't shut the fuck up about God. And that is precisely why everyone on that panel, even if they're like Christians, will go, dude, shut up.
Now you don't have to take responsibility for not fulfilling what you were called to do.
When you do that, you also take away other things that somebody else may do. If I have a woman or a partner that wants to take on certain roles and I say, hey, those are my roles that God gave me in society, now I'm suppressing that person. Like, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. You define who you are and how you behave under God. That's what God gave us, free will.
But also, like, I think that the religious beliefs should not be used to like dictate how other people identify or how other people live their lives.
Humans need predictability, and when we put each other in these boxes, it gives us the opportunity to make decisions quickly. And I think that's what we're fighting is as a civilization at the moment, is the desire to put 7.5 billion people in specific boxes so that we can have some sort of predictability.
I'm losing it. Ribcorn Andy is just spitting, dude. What is happening? They're so fucking good. Dude, this is agitprop. Men, this is our year, boys. 2023 is the year of men, okay? But good men. Not men like Andrew Tate, good men, all right?
Or stability in our lives. I was an emotionally abusive young man in my 20s because I had an idea of what my wife should do. And it caused a lot of stress.
Why were you the way you were?
I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of pent up rage. I had, some combat stress that I had to deal with also that I wasn't dealing with because men don't show emotion.
There is a social construct that benefits.
Dude, okay. I gotta say something here. Look. We always talk about like bad therapy or some of the worst consequences of therapy. Bad therapists will just go, yes, queen, and create a fucking process in which like you are basically defending all of your worst urges all the goddamn time and also hyper medicalizing yourself in a way that like makes it impossible to have a normal conversation with you. On the other hand, is good ass therapy. Holy fuck. That's a dude who's just like, that's a dude who literally just went to therapy and was like, I fixed my shit.
Responsibility that I've learned as I've gotten older is learning how to not enforce my power, learning over women, over people.
You're saying that role gives men more privilege, like an advantage and privilege. I'm saying that it is more self-sacrificing. I do not have free time. I do not have hobbies. I do not wake up during the day and do what I want to do ever. I'm thinking about my wife, my kids, my business.
But that's your decision, and that's not like a mandatory thing of your masculinity.
Well, if you believe that God is true,
I don't,
and you believe that He is God, then you do have that responsibility.
What privileges are you?
They said I don't.
Like, what privileges do men have?
We've constructed this entire society to benefit us.
Break it down. Like, what privileges exactly?
Like, we talk about the wage gap, or if you look at Roe versus
Florida man nailed it, dude. Never wrong. Florida man coming in.
Versus Wade, men controlling women's bodies.
Even if there might be those privileges, there's also more men who commit suicide, more men incarcerated.
I think when you talk about like incarceration rates and things like that, like things that men are a victim of, I think that it's important to like recognize, like, I don't think that men are oppressed solely on the grounds that they're men. I think that men experience oppression based on like the intersections of their identities, which is why we see like different like lower class jobs being worked by men, or like higher suicide rates, or like incarceration rates going up, because like men, like Black men, brown men, indigenous men, queer men, trans men, etc. Those people like face oppression, they experience oppression, but it's not solely due to their identity as a man.
But I think dating and
say it because they're laborers. Say it, Griffin. You as a man, you're a cisgender, heterosexual, white guy living in America. You are experiencing oppression. You are certainly experiencing oppression. You're not experiencing it on the virtue of being a man, on the virtue of being cisgender, or on the virtue of being heterosexual. You are experiencing it because you are a worker. You are a laborer. You are getting fucked over by your bosses. Okay? That's it. You are united with everyone else under one struggle. That is class struggle.
Sex is probably a very interesting place to think about this because it's changing field as far as like what people expect of each other.
I date in New York City a lot, and dating wise, there's a lot that's like asked of a man. Like first dates are like nightmares.
I got a question on that, yeah.
Dude, it's like, I'm like, what do you want? They got like a checkbox, like, are you gonna pick me up? Are you gonna walk on the outside of the sidewalk? Are you gonna open the door? Are you gonna pull out the seat? Are you gonna pay for the meal? Are you gonna be interesting during the dinner? Are you gonna be funny during the dinner? And then when you walk home, are you gonna drop me off? Are you gonna watch me walk inside? And then are you gonna text me after? And it's like trying to defuse a bomb. Like if you think you're like red wire, blue wire, and you're like one little thing and you're just done. And it's like, I'm to the point where I'm like, I'm so tired of like paying $150 for a first date.
Dude, Tate heads are like so pathetic too. But in a weird way, they like recognize how pathetic they are. First, skill issue, okay? Skill issue, get better, okay? Number one. Number two, like if this is like your biggest problem, then goddamn, brother, like if you look at it like it's a narrow list of checks that you have to like check off a box, like yeah, you're gonna always have a hard time.
And then you just ghost me. And the next week I'm like hurting for cash. I'm like, I could have really used that $150. Like why did I?
Again, thinking this dude has to work on himself, okay? Thinking that like spending money on a first date is what is going to solve your problems is a bad idea, okay? You don't want to establish the relationship on a transactional nature. Someone should want to go out with you because they want to spend time with you, because they think you're interesting. They want to learn more about you. They should not want to go out with you because you're going to buy them shit.
I have to...
Anybody can be narcissistic, but I think that it's like weird to randomly attribute that to like women in New York because they're being complimented all day.
There's a term, it's called absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, but that is...
Look, even the most even keeled, masculine, confident minded individual still ultimately is like falling into that trap that like, yeah, some women just like get this crazy sense of self-worth, this inflated ego. Okay, even he's doing it.
When we're talking about masculinity, that's what we've had. We've typically had that. We can do whatever we want, and we do it because we squeeze, we corrupt, we take. Historically, you take over things, places that you don't like, and you rape the women, and you take the gold, and you do what you want because you have that power. Now, when we see women have that power, we're like, whoa, she's literally just getting a taste of the power that men have had.
No, I don't think this is correct. No, he's like still doing it in a feminist way, but he's not right, because I do not agree with the underlying premise that like women who are getting hit on all the time, women are getting hit on all the time, and that's why they have this like inflated sense of self-worth, and that's why they're putting men down. Why do I not feel that way? Because I have women friends, and I know what the happens when I will never fully personally understand it, but I know what happens. Like I know what it looks like. It's not empowering. Women that are constantly getting hit on by dudes that they don't want to that they want no business, who also have this sense of entitlement, ironically, are not building a inflated ego. Are there women who have inflated egos? Of course there are. But that doesn't mean all women are a certain way. You have to be able to recognize like, okay, is this person just like ego Andy? Maybe the reason why they're like hyper defensive or not, responding positively to my advances is because either A, I'm just not the guy, or B, they're getting hit on a lot by dudes that they don't want to fuck, and dudes respond weirdly. So now they're just closed off. Oh, trust me, bro. I am that guy.
For centuries.
But on the flip side of this perspective of dating, of like the poor guy who goes on these dates and gets ghosted and it's a struggle to date. On the other side of that is men have more sex, men cheat more, they have more affairs. So if I'm a woman and I'm looking for a guy, I would be really selective. I would have a list of what I was looking for.
You know what's funny about this? Like Christian has his take because he has a lot of female friends. That's why he knows.
And the guy would have to meet those standards and they would be high.
I think that over the last several years, the Me Too movement has given a lot of insight into what women are feeling in the workplace, what they're experiencing, how they're being abused and otherwise silenced, how institutions of power have kept them silent. And we've heard some really awful stories and some terrible shit. I want to hear from you guys what you think about what the Me Too movement did. Has it gone too far? What does it mean for you?
I think it's good for women to expose men who are doing evil things in the workplace. I think it's been a good thing in exposing sexual abuse. There's also the opposite side of that coin where women are allowed privilege to do certain things that men are not.
And the New York City guy acts like he doesn't have a list of requirements for the women he dates, which we know isn't true. He wants to date 10s without bringing anything to the table. That's the other side of this coin. Whenever like guys constantly cry about like women always want the best partner for themselves, women always female hypergamy, it's like, bro, are you a fucking loser? Are you saying to me unironically that although beauty is in the eye of the beholder, you personally are looking for someone that you do not find attractive to you? Because attraction is a personal concept. So you're literally telling me you want a bad partner, okay? You want a partner that you're not attracted to? Shut the fuck up. Of course everybody wants the best possible partner that they can get. It's so stupid.
Or not. So in the workplace, I was working at a place where a woman was grabbing me inappropriately, doing things that were inappropriate. And when you bring that up to your coworkers, you know what they say? They laugh and they say, you should be excited, right? So if a man is sexually abused, the stigma totally changes.
Well, I don't think Me Too necessarily like is what prevented people from believing you in your story. And like your story is valid, like I'm not here to suppress that, but I do think that like it's worth noting women are far more likely to be victims of sexual assault.
You just experienced a little bit of weakness that women feel most of the time.
When we're talking about constructs, you know, you guys are saying we need to deconstruct masculinity. I'm saying there are unequal biases with both genders.
When it comes to it not necessarily being as viewed as valid, it happens to be the case because of other men, though. You know what I'm saying? Like other men are.
That's all. Whoo, goddamn, they're so good. Bro, 21 minutes in, no notes, okay? The boys are back in fucking town, baby. What is happening right now?
People that downplay that, and that's when we come back to the talk of, you know, patriarchy and things like that.
Was put in place by men and is enforced by men.
Oh, and I went for a walk to get dinner last night. And I walked several blocks because I wanted to check out a few things. And it was dark. Not a single time did the idea that I would be physically or sexually assaulted cross my mind. Not a single time. Now, I can imagine that doesn't really work out for women.
It comes down to biological differences. As a man, you're more likely to be able to have more of a chance to fend off someone attacking you. As a woman, not really. So that's why, you know, we have things like mace and tasers or having a gun.
Is it something about it's hard to admit that you're a victim?
Yeah, for sure.
And to complain about it. People look at you like, remember Terry Crews? He can get his nuts squeezed and shit.
Right.
It's like,
you know?
why didn't you do something? Why'd you let him?
Look how the world ridiculed him. You know, oh, you ain't do nothing. Like, oh, you a bitch. You know, so we as men, especially super guys that grew up in super masculine houses, we don't really like to admit weakness.
Well, and it's in our language, right? Like, don't be a bitch. Like, don't be a pussy.
Right.
Like, it's very real.
We internalize that.
Yeah, that's all examples of like toxic masculinity. Like it's never to invalidate somebody's experience, but like it must be obvious that like these are rules and roles enforced by men and created by men.
Well, and toxic masculinity and power kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we're talking about peanut butter and jelly.
You know what it is? I think sometimes we got to go to work and like if we're caught complaining about it, we're like admitting weakness. It's like you're not a man.
How does that feel?
It doesn't feel great, but that doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. If you talk about a little bit of pressure that goes with it, yeah, there's a little bit of pressure. If you can withstand it, you become a successful man.
But what does that have to do with being a man? Surely like a woman can do all those things, so why even attribute it to your gender?
That's a good point, but I think also, if you're talking in terms of biological differences, generally men are more logical, right? More reasoning, more factual.
I disagree.
Okay, that take in and of itself is illogical. Like, so you just betrayed your biological predetermination, I guess? Is that what happened?
There is no scientific backing for that whatsoever.
I just think it's a commonly used stereotype. I mean, I'm not.
I just maybe talking about, okay, you guys can say that. I think more about me. Like, I'm more of like a logical, factual-based guy. Like, I have emotions, but, you know, I don't.
Except for what I just spat out. Which is fine, I guess. You know, sometimes we all have our moments.
Don't let that deter me from what I need to do, like my reasoning.
Do you talk with people about your emotions a lot?
I mean, I have friends. I have close guy friends I can talk to.
You do?
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing came out where like guys these days have fewer than 3 friends. Like, it's hard for men to make friends with each other.
I think that's a big problem now in modern times, because you hear about, the suicide rates going up. I think that's a big reason for it. Men aren't allowed to talk about it with safe people.
I think that vulnerability for men oftentimes is viewed as surrender, and like that is that's an example of weakness in which like someone can possibly take advantage of it, or it used to be viewed as such, where it's like, all right, cool, like he cried, oh, that means he's soft, so now I can challenge him.
And this is something that I really struggle with. As a black man that grew up in the hood, you couldn't be soft. You couldn't come outside. You know what I'm saying? So you had to take on this persona in order to be a quote unquote man. As I got older, I realized I still had to do that with women. I had to be a certain way for them to look at me as a man. And if I didn't perform in that manner, they also called me a bitch.
Yeah, they want a real, like...
Right?
Poster.
So it's like, as progressive as I may want to be, is the world accepting of that as a whole? Because even if the other men don't like it, but the women like it, I might be like, I don't care what the guys think, as long as the women like it. But there are spaces where the women will be like,
true. Women uphold the patriarchy 100%. He's right. Now, they are not 100% responsible for it, obviously. No one would make that argument. Vice is literally sexist. This is literally an entire panel of normal-ass dudes plus Christian Walker, not conservative podcasters. What the fuck? This is way more insightful. Yeah, I mean, even Christian Walker, who is supposed to be the right-wing mouthpiece here, is like doing a fairly decent job maneuvering through this landscape and not even leaning deep into his like reactionary tendencies in the same way that like the feminism panel 100% had at least 2 individuals in it that were just going absolute bananas mode. You know what I mean? I think they probably thought the God guy and Christian Walker were going to be like pumping out some psycho narratives, but they just aren't on this, on this subject matter. It's crazy.
look at him, he wants a finger in his butt. Sorry.
No, let's talk about fingers in the butt.
You know what I'm saying? That's not my type of guy. He's not my type of guy. And I can't be open with sex or accepting having gay friends.
That's what you like?
But I can't, right. You can't be open about certain things because then you become questionable and you're pushed out of the safe space.
Sex is a difficult thing for men to talk about even with each other, especially if you do have some kind of kink.
That's because women are less reasonable? No. You think that there aren't insane men that they could have put on this panel? The only one guy that unironically resembles the chronically online fucking loser Andrew Tate fan is the dude in the back right corner, okay? And he knows to shut the fuck up in this situation. It has nothing to do with women being less reasonable, dummy. I mean, I know you're probably joking. Yeah. They just did not choose some sick freaks in this circumstance.
Because you're not allowed to be vulnerable. You're not allowed to be weak. You're not allowed to fail. And a lot of people that when you say the suicide rates, you give up because you have nowhere to turn.
I kind of disagree with you on the fact about that pressure is causing. I think it's more the lack of support and guidance for a lot of guys. They don't know where to turn. A lot of guys, suicide I think is when you lose hope, right? So they just don't have hope.
What about not wanting to go get it? Because there's places to be. There's people to go. You can go to church. I mean, you can go to therapy. There's
much
places
as you
to
say
go.
That, but I don't feel when you say guys don't want to express weakness, I think taking that step is hard for a lot of men because then that expresses weakness. It's hard for a lot of guys.
You know what's interesting? That what I'm hearing is that as men, you also are victimized by the sexist expectations of masculinity.
It also makes it hard for men to love themselves and love themselves enough to understand that they're in trouble. I know that's something that happened in my life. It was before I did finally go to therapy and get the demons out that I needed to get out.
This guy's awesome.
Me meeting a woman who actually made me want to love myself.
This is Cutter, dude. This is Cutter, and everything went right. Okay? Straight up. Nice hefty portion, a healthy serving of rib corn coming your way, ladies and gents.
You found a woman who gave you peace and changed you a lot. Well, great if a man is dating a woman and she doesn't like that he's not masculine enough, it's kind of like, to me, I feel like too bad for him. He should go find someone else. That's part of the dating scene. Everyone has things that they like and things that they don't like.
I feel like your preference is your preference, but at like some point, I think it's like noteworthy and responsible to like understand where those preferences or like originate.
Not necessarily. I think our life experiences form what we really want in our dating life. And because I grew up in a broken home and I didn't have a man in the house, I want a man who gives me security and protection. I don't think me deconstructing masculine is gonna do that for me. I was missing that in my childhood, and that's what I want in a man.
I tend to diverge from like the Freudian daddy issues stuff when it comes to like what
Congratulations, I'm so happy for you. I want a man.
Yes! They're getting catty! Oh! I like this. I like this. By the way, surprising, but like, I don't even think Christian Walker said anything like all that wrong. I can't believe I'm saying this. Yes. Like he was like that was like a reasonable disagreement for both people to have. Like it wasn't like across the board crazy.
It gives me security.
Thank you.
I think
Freud.
if I'm with a woman and the bad dates I've had is when I'm talking about my problems, I'm complaining about something, I'm not gonna see that woman. If I'm with a woman and the bad dates I've had is when I'm talking about my problems, I'm complaining about something, I'm not gonna see that woman. If I'm
Wait, what? He said, if I can't fucking trauma dump on the first date, like, you know, you're not for me. I don't need a lady. I need a therapist, okay? Healthcare is expensive, and mental health and you know, therapy, that shit's even more expensive because it's usually not covered, okay? So guess what? I'm trauma dumping, bitch, okay? First date, you're going to hear about all my problems. And if you don't want to put up with that, then, you know, it's not happening.
projecting more strength and I'm more charismatic, I'm positive, I'm probably gonna see that woman. So I think as much as like guys, you know.
Oh, he said they are, wait, dude, he is not doing a good job describing this. I think he's saying if a woman is trauma dumping, he's not going to see this woman. Or is he wait.
Thank you.
I think
Freud.
if I'm with a woman and the bad dates I've had is when I'm talking about my problems, I'm complaining about something.
Oh, no, I got it
I'm not
right.
gonna see that woman. If I'm projecting more strength and I'm more charismatic,
Yeah, women expect you to be strong is what he's saying. But yeah, if you're trauma dumping on a first date, yeah, no shit. Like it's not gonna work out. That's not a good date. I've been on shitty dates where I was not in the right mental mindset, didn't have the right attitude. That's, you know, you just take the L and you move on.
positive, I'm probably gonna see that woman. So I think as much as like guys, you know, you want guys to be vulnerable, that doesn't work a lot of times. And I think it just comes down to that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what it is. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
And it sounds like a lot of you are saying that's wrong.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I think it is what it is.
I just think that society teaches you have to be a certain way.
And that's really...
And that's my issue. Because
Right.
if this is who you are, your character, right, it just blossoms into this person that loves to pay for dates, loves to open doors, and loves to walk in the house, then that's fine. But when society tells you that from a young boy, that that's the only way to be as a man, this is the only way to be. And you think about things like, say, people on the down low that don't want to come out till later because they're scared of societal pressures, right? You should be able to be whoever you want without society telling you you have to be this way in order to fit in this box.
What is big dick energy?
It's when confidence crosses the line of arrogance. That's exactly.
People have told me I have BDE.
You have BDE?
Yeah, people told me I had BDE.
You didn't?
No one has told him that. But he does have a level of confidence. No, he does. He does. He has a level of confidence that comes from being like being aware of his stupidity. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's funny as fuck, dude. He's just like, he's so funny, dude. He's just like, yeah, dog, I'm kind of stupid. I'm kind of a schlub. Like, I ain't got no money. I'm broke. No, it's awesome.
In that back room.
Not to show off.
Right? Even he said, look at that.
I think BDE is like just a confident man. I don't think it's an arrogant man. I don't find arrogance to be big dick energy. I find it to be insecure. If you're arrogant, you're trying to like, I
find it so odd to equate somebody's like the size of their genitals to like the quality of their character. Like what? That's nobody's
There's a lot of
business.
odds. It's more of just like a metaphor.
I don't agree though.
Yeah, for confidence.
Then it comes back. Now we're getting into like a deeper conversation, which like some men see a value based off the size of what they're carrying between their legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's why the conversation of big dick energy comes into place, because people feel as though like a man that's like more that's packing more down there.
Bro, this is literally like gender theory. What the fuck is going on? You brought a bunch of fucking Normans in a room and they're literally like assessing like value attributed as a consequence of the patriarchy or patriarchal expectations and like how what cultural gender norms are and how that like ends up harming men. What is happening right now? What the fuck? This is literally CRT.
You know what I mean? It's more like, you know, one, they're better in bed. They're like more confident people. They're exuding a certain energy. So that like the stereotypes, you know, so the stereotypes associated with having a big dick.
The lack of a need to overcompensate to society because you know you're adequate.
You know what you got.
You walk with confidence because you can tell when somebody's putting on because they lack in certain ways. And men, me and people I know, equate manhood and masculinity to their dick size and how much money they got. Like, it's like, yo, you feel more confident.
And sometimes that kind of stuff bleeds into violence. And you see that in domestic violence situations, like men are like the perpetrators of that by and large. There's something wrong with masculinity when it becomes violent.
100%. I also think because of testosterone and a number of different things, men are inherently more violent.
But being able to control it, that's
we
important.
should teach
It's being able to control
That's where
it.
the responsibility comes in.
Yeah.
I think you know you hear the whole saying like it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener